and welcome to you all to the DIGILOGIC webinar. Today, Wednesday, October the 5th, 2022, with myself, the host, Youssouf, Diakite, Ada, Ugo Abara, and Richard Leigh. As your host today, I'm going to be really showcasing to you some introductions so that we get to hear about you a little bit more, but also to tell you a little bit about our project. So the DIGILOGIC project intends to build bridges between the islands of innovation scattered across Europe and Africa to leverage, strengthen, and connect digital innovation hubs in Europe and Africa to build the first smart logistics pan-EU Africa digital innovation hub network, fostering a broad digital transformation in the African logistics sector. So we will be looking forward to talking to you today about how you as digital innovation hubs and also as ecosystem specialists, just a little bit more detail about how you're coming together to help us to build our bridges. So thank you again for agreeing to be part of the session, and I look forward to our discussion today. So first and foremost, let's have some introductions. So as your project manager, I'm with MEST Africa, which are an NGO based in across area, who most of you will have engaged with before the session. Bongo Hive in Zambia, VTT in Finland, Truly Innovational in Italy, Endeavour and Digital Logistic Hub in Germany. So as your host today, I'm going to be bringing my experience as an entrepreneurial ecosystem specialist, living and working in Ghana for the last 8 years, a British Nigerian with an enthusiasm for Pan-African collaborations, and I mentor and coach women and young people as my specialism. And I'd like now for you to introduce yourselves to our audience, starting with Youssouf, and then Ada, and then finally Richard. So please take the floor, Youssouf.
Thank you so much for this small introduction of yourself. Now I know you better. So myself, Youssouf Diakite. I was also involved in entrepreneurship for the last 10 years in Europe and in Africa. So today I'm going to represent ADYFE, which is the African Development Platform, African Europe Development Platform, World Entrepreneurship and Development Policies and projects toward Africa. So I'm also the co-founder of what we call the African Diaspora Youth Forum. So it's a pleasure to be here and discuss about entrepreneurship, hubs, ecosystem building, and all those things we'll need to boost the African development and collaboration between hubs in Africa and Europe. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Youssouf. And Ada, can we please go to you next?
Hello, everyone. Again, thanks you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here and to discuss entrepreneurship with you. My name is Ada Abara. I'm a Nigerian born and raised in Italy, member of the Diaspora. And I work in the field of development and cooperation, and specifically working in diaspora engagement policies, so trying to link startups and entrepreneurs in the continent with possible partners and institutional partners here in Italy. And I've been collaborating with the Italian Business African Week for now it will be 6-7 years. And that's a business forum that's trying to connect the economic ecosystem of African countries with their Italian counterpart here. And yeah, thank you for having me. I'm waiting for the discussion we'll have today.
Thank you so much, Ada. And finally, Richard Leigh, if you could introduce yourself to the rest of the panel, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me as well. My name is Richard Leigh. I am the Engagement and Capacity Manager at ADYFE, which is the African Foundation for Development, a pioneer in diaspora relations and affairs, both in Europe, Africa, and the rest of the world. My role really is engaging people from policies through to implementing of projects from first generation, second generation, third third generation diaspora. And I'm very glad to be here to discuss possibilities on innovation and diaspora, on how we can all of us can help Africa develop to the level it has to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. And Afford have been part of my African heart for quite a long time. So it's really great to have you here, but it's wonderful to have you all here. And this is going to be an open discussion. So what I really like about all of your backgrounds is that it's something that our audience can really get their teeth into and really enjoy hearing how they can potentially engage with you as well. So I'm going to open with some questions, which I'd like you all to answer in order of me calling out your name. So if I could start with Ada and ask you, what do you believe is the role of diaspora organizations like you belong to in the network for the Italian networks that you can help us with in supporting digital innovation in Africa? And you can give some examples if you don't mind.
Well, thank you very much for this question. I think it's a great starting point for our conversation today, because diaspora, I will be speaking mainly from an Italian point of view and seeing what has been going on in this country. Diaspora, not only in the digital field, but in general in connecting our home countries to the continent where we might be located or where some of us are operating. And being enablers means that we have access to skills and knowledge that are cultivated here in Europe, but we are also linked and very conscious about the processes that are going on in our home countries. So we are trying normally to mix, to blend the two, and to try to find possible solutions that can benefit one part or the other. And when I say this is because we are always stressing the fact that it's not just the diaspora or Europe that can, let's say, export skills and knowledge, but actually, at least in Italy, we are learning a lot from what is going on in the country and learning from how innovation and digital transformation is being, let's say, displayed and being promoted by local entrepreneurs gives us the link to try to build something together. And when I think about the role of diaspora in supporting innovation, I think that one of the key elements that can be provided is accessibility and contacts, because through our work, through our organizations, we have the chance to, let's say, interact with representatives of the national government here in Italy and also of European networks. And sometimes, through my experience, I can say that it's sometimes easier for entrepreneurs from the continent to meet their representatives here in Italy or in Europe than back home. For instance, the Italian Africa Business Week is a business platform trying to create, as I was saying before, a network, a healthy network, where entrepreneurs from the continent can meet possible partners in Italy, and then they can also meet fellow entrepreneurs from the diaspora. And every year, during the Italian Business African Week, we have 10 or 20 representatives from national government. We have ministers of foreign affairs, ministers of innovation, and the entrepreneurs that are coming from Africa. And normally we have hundreds of them coming from over 20 or 30 countries every year. They have the chance to have some B2B meetings with their governmental representatives during the forum here, and they give us as the feedback that is the first time they are actually able to book an appointment and to interact with them. And I think that this is a great value that should be communicated and should become more and more common. And something also specific about the Italian Africa Business Week is a sort of B3B model. So we have the African entrepreneur, the Italian entrepreneur, and then we have the diaspora entrepreneur. And the role of the diaspora is to facilitate the meeting between the two, but also to translate the business and cultural codes that are very relevant to the success of a partnership and that normally are, let's say, unlooked at or not translated, and they might create some problems in trying to develop and to strengthen certain partnerships. So having the three entrepreneurs with the same object that are interacting together, and they can start building a healthy partnership in a business space, is something that I think is at the starting point of trying to support and create innovation. And the Italian Africa Business Week always have as a focus digital transformation and innovative startups. So it's one of the core sectors of our action, together with waste management, agribusiness, agri-tech, and all, let's say, I would say that the digital infrastructure or innovation is like a cross-cutting topic that is in each sector of intervention. So just to sum it up, I'll say that an important role that we are all asked to cover is being intermediaries and infomediaries between our representatives and the entrepreneurs that we are trying to work with at the same level, and also creating spaces where we can facilitate some processes that might look far away because they're back home, but they are actually pretty actual in our local environment and in where we live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Aga. Yes, and to say thank you very much for that really thought-provoking response. And I'm really excited by yourself as the Association of Aspiring Africans. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out. So we'll also put that in the chat for our listeners. So thank you very much for that. I've learned some new things, intermediaries and intramediaries. So thank you very much for that. So if we can move on now to Youssouf, if you wouldn't mind now answering the question that I posed earlier. I can repeat it if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you believe the role of the diaspora organizations like yourselves in supporting digital innovation in Africa? So what do you believe is the role of diaspora organizations like yourself in supporting digital innovation in Africa?
Thank you so much for the question. This is something quite interesting. ADYFE, we think that today we represent like a major force to be recognized, and our force need to be channeled in order to become the catalyst that African market will need in terms of technology. Of course, you are talking about digitalization. I will start from the technology perspectives, which is like a booster of the digitalization that we are expecting. And at ADYFE, what we are trying to do, first of all, is to make sure that these digital competencies can be leveraged to boost businesses in Africa. Why? Because we are very much involved in doing business in Africa, like the 10,000 members of our network. What they do, they try to develop their solution within the continent. And they try also to get partners from Europe toward Africa. And most of the time, either the needed technology is not available in the market, or the infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure can be like a kind of barrier to the setup of their business. And what we decided to do as an organization, first of all, is to explain to the young people within the continent, to the entrepreneurs, that we don't need always to develop technology. One technology we can leverage on it, make sure that 10 or 20 business can use the same technologies as a product, as a solution. And how is that possible? Is only through the activities we set up, like the videos you will share later on. You know, we try always to come and understand what's going on. First of all, we are motivated because we want to create value. We want to create businesses. And secondly, we know that we cannot do it without the local partners. And joint ventures is like a kind of focus. Most of the time we really promote. Why? It's because, of course, we are diaspora, we know our continent, but we believe that they know better because they are living there, because they understand better the code, the local code, because they do understand better the cultural aspect, you know, the bureaucracy and all those aspects. Once someone can solve this part, and you as a diaspora focusing on knowledge, how to transfer the knowledge, how to transfer the needed technology could be a main issue, a main key to solve problems. But we are nowadays we are facing another challenges. Most of the companies we really try to support in Africa are facing like how and where to develop the phase prototype of their products. And most of the time, those prototypes are being sending to China or to the US to be produced, which means that those people producing are taking our technology also and all those knowledge that Africa is supposed to protect. So in terms of policy discussion, this kind of space could be like some space helping to shape this policy discussion to make sure that those technology, intellectual property made for African market, for African can be kept in Africa and used for the growth of the African market. So as a diaspora, we really do understand this policy. And we try to communicate, we try to work with partners like yours, like others, to also understand our needs. So to also understand how we can move forward with all those technologies, which is available now, how to transform it, and how to adapt it to the market. So those different points are what we call in our field of work, the access barriers. Access barriers to, you know, the prototyping, the engineering, and access barriers to knowledge. So Diaspora, to add to what Ada was saying, can play this key role in terms of like B2B, in terms of B2G. B2G is the way we call what she was explaining, business to government, because business to government is a key nowadays since the last century, which will help. I can move on to the last forum Africa and Europe has in Vienna, called Africa-Europe Business Summit. And this was the first time ever our organization as ADYFE and ADYFE, we were engaged with the head of state to work on some policy and express the need of diaspora. And so far, we are waiting for the next step, like more policy discussions, more technology discussion, which is like the backbone of the digitalization, the digital transformation we are expecting one day Africa to have. I think I will stop here first, and then maybe for the second question, I can try to elaborate more on other aspects of what we are trying to develop. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm sorry, thank you so much, Youssouf. And I've got B2G now from you. Thank you very much. And also, you have the Mali Business Innovation and Incubation Center. I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about that. And what I really liked about what you're saying is it really tapped onto what Ada was saying about how we add value as a diaspora, but in adding value, we don't want to lose. Our IP is very important, and it leads really well into Richard's answering our question, because Afford have a great reputation with regards to policy and interventions with governments. So I'll hand the floor over to Richard to actually answer our question. Thank you so much again, Youssouf. So Richard, the question to you again is the role of diaspora in fostering innovative uptake in Africa, and then helping a little bit on the policy side for Youssouf's intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And still just adding to what both of them, both Ada and Youssouf have said, so that there's no much repetition. So yes, we've seen, obviously, there's a progressive uptake of businesses in Africa adopting digital solutions, but we've seen they are broadening their scope, but there's still a lot of gaps. So the things that I think Diaspora can bring on board, some of them they've mentioned, but there's a financing gap. Obviously, we know there's a financing gap of almost 107 billion a year for Africa. And that means that diaspora resources, when it comes to finances, from remittances to their savings and investments, can be things that can be channeled into different development focuses. There's also the skills gap, which comes into the complementary side of things. There's a lot of skills. People are educated a lot in Africa. There's still a lot more that those of us who have moved abroad in terms of diaspora have gained that can bring back and partner with those who are gaining the knowledge on the ground to make it better, because we then do what Ada and Youssouf are saying, we complement each other to foster the development of our continent. I think the other areas that diaspora can bring on board is the networks that we have formed, which both Ada and Youssouf have mentioned. But that also means that there are a lot more networks that can be formed both in the diaspora and on the ground in the different countries that can work together in building different things. The other one that I want to add before I provide examples is I think that whilst we do it, we have discovered from afar that a multi-stakeholder approach is always the best option. So we bring the diaspora on board, we bring the businesses on board, the entrepreneurs, the investors, the government. And when I use the multi-stakeholder approach and use government, I'm not only limiting it to central government. We have worked all the way to local government. We have worked with civil society organizations on the ground and internationally. When we come together as groups, it's easier to then know which every area is affected somehow, but also complemented by another area. And so when we come together, we are not blaming each other, but we are saying, what can you do to support me to get my work done? And what can I do to support you to get your work done? So we've had examples where, so at the fall through two of our projects, so the Diaspora Finance Initiative and currently what we call the ABC West Africa, we have had examples. So we had a Nigerian entrepreneur who was into technology and stuff. Through our project, we co-funded with him an operation called CopDad, and he ran a studio 14 in the UK. But he wanted to start a business in Nigeria in replicating what he was doing. In the end, he realized that coding, people needed a coding, and he wanted to just establish a branch in Nigeria that will help to code. And then as he went on, he realized that he could then involve the young girls and focus with other key players. And now this group of people now code for businesses that are based in the UK and all over the world. And it's a group of young girls. 50% of his employees are women. And so you start to see that though he just wanted to build his business in Nigeria, in the end, it developed from just doing coding, but now taking on the businesses. In effect, for him, it's cheaper, but it's meeting the needs of people on the ground, it's meeting the needs of the businesses as well. And in the interest of time, I will hand it here so that if there's any further clarifications, we can provide. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Richard. And I really do like that example you gave us with regards to the coding in Nigeria, especially for our girls, which at MEST, we're always trying to make sure that we leave room for our girls to see our adverts and know that our adverts are for them to take up some of the courses, etc. But I definitely will connect with you offline with regards to this gentleman so that you can see how we can plug in and collaborate in the diaspora way. So thank you for that first round of questions, and it really just opens up the conversation. You've talked about challenges, you've talked about your own examples, and what's really good about the conversation is our audience really want to know how they can get involved. So the next question I'm going to pose is, of the areas that you said the role of the diaspora are actually contributing to the ecosystem, what are the areas that are of major interest to you, and how can we in this group, start to negotiate how we can look at that? So if I can start with Youssouf, what of the areas that you feel that you've got challenges with, or the areas that you feel are the role of the diasporan networks that majorly interest you, and then let's see how we can have a conversation and all of us try and support you with that here in this conversation.
So the key sectors that will be needing help, or that was the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. As an organization, we face like some challenges, I will put that way, in terms of challenges. The first of the challenges that a diaspora organization are trying to overcome is like a kind of lack of exposure of what we are doing, and the understanding of the nature of our work, and the knowledge we carry that we cannot transfer due to the lack of like a pastoral or like a bridge that is missing to make our work further. Because most of our members or partners, they do not do this as a full-time jobs,
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of bridge where things can be exposed and understand easily could be something that will help a lot young people in diaspora to support more and be more operational in what they are doing. Also, most of the time there is also the lack of the right technology. They needed one because of the high cost they are facing, and through like policy discussion and other kind of exchange, partnership building, we can maybe have access to more technology, because the way we do have access to technology is through the kind of work we are doing in the diaspora as an expert or as an employee of a company. But having it for yourself to support your country of origin is still like one of the barriers we are facing. And space, we need more space to lobby and advocate, to make funding available for anything linking to fintechs for diaspora, how we can leverage on all those beyond remittances, the budget, the money we have to put in the projects we wanted, and how we can leverage on the skills we have, the technology we have. All those process needs to be supported. Those are the area that ADYFE is trying to focus most, and agribusiness became also one of the main topics nowadays that we are trying to also understand ourselves, because the way process is done in Africa is different from the diaspora. So the organization like AfriLabs or like NIETA, my incubation center, as like for us a kind of sources where we are really also getting good information about process, getting discussion. Okay, how do you work on this? Because you conceptualize this. So how we can help to conceptualize it better so that we can understand, our partners can understand, and we can even foster the sector of activities. So those kind of work could be really the most needed in terms of collaboration between diaspora entrepreneurs and diaspora and the hubs we have both sides in Europe and in Africa. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you mentioned AfriLabs, because that was my immediate first response for you. And also, of course, please engage us at MEST to support you with access to technology. We run training courses that are specifically for our African participants. So our round of entrepreneurship in training has got Ethiopia, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Kenya. We've got so many people that we bring together in our melting pot in Ghana to support with the technology transformations and learnings. So I'll invite as well to contribute to what you've said, to see how in Italy, if these are some of the same issues, and how she can potentially look at helping you with some of your interactions with some of the lacks that you talk about. Thank you. So
Thank you.
Ada, if you could respond, thank you.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with what Youssouf have said, because we experience some of the same challenges in Italy as well. And especially, I think that something that should be added is like, we are living into different business climates that are, let's say, marching at two different speed. So sometimes it's difficult to match the speed of African startups or entrepreneurs with the speed of Italian stakeholders. For instance, when we are talking about policies, as Youssouf said, or when we are trying to build an intervention, in Italy, it might take months or even years sometimes to find the right partners, to build the right infrastructure before you can even start. And also by then, the priorities might have changed, the company might have changed its focus. So sometimes there's a mismatch between these two speeds. And also I would add that sometimes, at least from the diaspora and from the Italian stakeholder perspective, it's difficult to see and to understand the ecosystem in which the company is working, because being far away, you cannot be involved on the daily basis activity, or even when you're trying to build a partnership. Okay, you can have the memorandum of understanding and everything, but you need to understand the ecosystem in a more in-depth way, and to know that your project, that the company can be sustainable on the long run. So talking about sustainability, sometimes it means that the company should have local partners that might be able to help it attract more funds. We know how difficult it might be, but it's, let's say, value added from the Italian point of view. And also, companies should be aware that sometimes Italian and European organizations and private foundations that have the money that they can invest in the project, they normally work on a project-based approach. So the intervention is project-oriented. It's limited in time. It might be 3 years, it might be 4 years, but it has to be structured in a way that it can be a project. And working and thinking in terms of project is quite, let's say, limited with respect to the sustainability plan of an organization or of a startup, but it's how it is right now. So it should be, let's say, it's a great challenge to find a meeting point where the Italian framework, the Italian short, let's say long timing in building projects can also meet and work with the African local ecosystems. And I'm so happy, Toyn, you told us about MEST in Kenya, because it's one of our main countries of intervention, also with the private foundation I'm collaborating with in Italy. And we will really use that, because we are working with a startup, a tech startup in the educational system. And I think we really have to connect after this meeting.
So that's what this is all about, opening up opportunities for collaborations. Thank you. What I really like about that, Ada, is it's not just about Italy. It is about the ecosystem, and we really need to build and grow and develop and get to know each other and work together, which is why I posed a question for everyone to hear Youssouf's issues and see how we can build on how we can support him, and how we as a network for this particular conversation can start going offline and continuing our conversations. So thank you so much for that. And Richard, I'd like to give the floor to you for you to also pose some of the answers to, or at least some of the conversation tidbits you'd like to share with Youssouf with regards to his response. Thank you again, Ada.
Yeah. Thank you once again. So I am listening to both Ada and Youssouf, and into perspective what we do as well. Just saying, yes, most diaspora have jobs on their own already. So most of the things they're doing is sort of a second full-time job. And that means timing is a problem. So time is a challenge, and therefore any little help that comes from any sector or any group of people is very much appreciated in being able to do it. And so for us, one of the things that we have realized is access to information and networks. But I want to focus on the access to information because I think Youssouf mentioned it a little bit as well, and other. So for us, at Afford, what we realized is because we're working with entrepreneurs and investors, we started to realize that there was a lack of information around businesses and doing business in the countries that we wanted to work in. So we had to start to create a doing business guide for every country that we worked in. So we researched the area, and it's something that we build on every year. And that is provided for the diaspora entrepreneur or the investor to know the do's and don'ts and all of that about the country that they are getting into and what they can do to achieve the most maximum effect of what they want to do. I think obviously one of the other challenges is capital, access to funds and all of that. And so if different groups can come together or are coming together to make funds available, that'll be great. The other area of capital that makes it also difficult is the barriers to entry in the countries in Africa that we're trying to get into. So not to mention a specific country's name, but just to say, assuming that what I need, some countries require around $200,000 or euros to start a business if you're coming in. Though they will still consider you diaspora, they consider you as one of them. But in the end, as soon as you start the process, you actually more look like the foreigner than the local who is coming in. So the capital requirements then become higher. And so this is where also the policy engagement area comes in, where if governments start to say, a lot of the African governments are saying, we want the diaspora to come in to help do X, Y, Z. But what is lacking is the diaspora engagement policies. So technically, maybe one or two countries in Africa have a full diaspora engagement policy. The rest don't have it. So for a diaspora coming in, you don't know what exactly is available to you and what incentive exists for you. You can have the incentive that exists for a foreign business or investor coming in, but not for the diaspora. So it becomes difficult as a diaspora member to know what exactly is available to you. And once you start, and then you start seeing the red tape is longer than you expected it to be. And so for us, it will be good to know that if I went into any country to start a business, I know in one location, the business is registered, bank account open, everything, whether it's 30 minutes or 3 hours or 1 day, is done. In some situations, we at the Ford are trying to register in certain countries now, and it's taking us almost 6 months to do that. And so imagine an individual who's saying, I want to do something. In the end, you get frustrated and want to rather pull out rather than go in, out, and help. And then maybe the last area that I want to focus on this thing is building trust. So the trust within the network, the trust within the entrepreneur and the people on the ground. Sometimes people feel people are taking advantage of them. The people on the ground think diaspora are taking advantage of them. People think government or is taking advantage of them as well. So we have to build that trust within the ecosystem that everyone is in for the best interest of everybody. That makes it easier for all of us to function better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. So much to ponder on. Thank you again. Trust is and always will be a fundamental for any relationship. And we found it at MEST. We found it even within our DIGILOGIC project. And it really is the reason why we do consortiums when we're looking for partnership opportunities. So as you said, you may want to open a bank account in another country. Do you have a representative in that country? Do you have a network of collaborators that you can start with? And at least 3. So it's at least you try all of them, and 1 or 2 of them might come up as what you're looking for, but you always have to have a good amount. I'll encourage you again to look at AfriLabs, because we found in that particular group, we have quite a lot of partners that we can engage with. And we're not going to solve all problems today, but what we're doing is starting the conversation, starting the questions, allowing for at least the 4 of us to have, sort of stepping stones that we can take offline with each other. And then for our audience to see that we are 4 organizations that they can at least look at in regards to some of the Diaspora challenges that they may have. So just wrapping up to our sort of last round of questions, and really wanting to thank you all and to let our listeners know we're looking at the role of Diaspora in fostering innovation and uptake in Africa. And we're really happy to have with us our 3 guest speakers. So in wrapping up, I'd really like you to tell us what projects you're working on that we could actually let our audience know about, so that they can go onto your websites and find out a little bit more about you and support you. As you know, what we're doing here with DigiLogic is all about the last mile. So we really want to make sure that your networks know about us and engage with us, so that we can actually make our projects work well as well. So if I can then start with Ada to just tell us a little bit about some of the projects you're working on that you'd like our audience to engage with you on offline, that would be great. And thank you again, Richard.
Well, I think that the, let's say, the most, not important, but the closest appointment we have is this year edition of the Italian Africa Business Week. It will be held in Rome on the 16th and 17th of November, and it's open absolutely to all the members of the diaspora and all the entrepreneurs that can join us from wherever they are. And I think that that's a great space where we can really be practical and really start to build connection. I hope I'll see you there, obviously. And apart from the business forum, we are working with different startups in several African countries. And we've recently also started working with some innovative hubs in Mozambique. So maybe we can also talk about that and see how we can create valuable connection. But yeah, I'll say that the first space where we can start to connect is really the Italian Africa Business Week, and in November. So you can feel free to share my details and the website. So if they want to join, they can just get in touch, and we'll be happy to receive them.
Thank you so much for that, Ada. And yes, we'll definitely be there. I was lucky enough to be part of the week last year and was really interested in some of the conversations. So definitely, thank you. And I like what you said about the fact that governments actually come as well. So if you want to meet your government, please come to this space. And
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
for the first time, like you said, but at least start the dialogue and let them know that you're in the ecosystem, and it's a good way to help them with their policies by engaging with our innovators in that space. Thank you so much. So I'll give the floor now to Richard to tell us some of the activities that you've got coming up that may be of interest to our audience. Thank you so much, Ada.
Okay, so thank you. So we have, let me see, currently we have what we call the ABC West Africa. So it's based in 4 countries: Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal. We are working on supporting diaspora businesses as well as local businesses with grants to create jobs. So if you go to our websites, or if anyone can contact me, that would be fine. We're looking for interested people diaspora who want to start businesses in Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal. For Nigeria and Ghana, one of our focus areas is on the TVET, the Technical Vocational Education and Technical Training. It's the same model. It's just that we want to focus on those areas. We think it is one of the areas that can bring out more innovation and development and creativity with the young people. and also not for those who are not able to get into high universities and stuff, but want their specific area is the technical area of stuff, whether it's in mechanics, auto, any area. We're interested in engaging with those people, as well as young people and women. The other area that we might also would be of interest is we have a project called the PEM project, which is being co-financed by Annabelle in Belgium. So we are focusing on trying facilitating a skills and labor mobility scheme between Senegal and Belgium. So we're looking for businesses on the ground in Senegal that will connect with businesses in Diaspora in Belgium, and there'll be an exchange program. Hopefully this is a good pilot that can then be piloted in the different African countries as well. I think on the other area of work that we're working in that may be of interest is one of our flagship progress called Return of the Icon. So it's looking at museums and artifacts and developing that sector and the heritage tourism area of things. So anyone in that space who's interested, there are two major focuses now as Benin and Ghana, and depending on hopefully how well it all goes, it will expand to the other countries as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Quite a few things there that we can get our teeth into as our audience and also as our panelists. Thank you very much. So I leave the floor now to Youssouf to tell us what active engagements you have that we may be able to let our audience know, and also our panelists. I give the floor to you. Thank you again, Richard. I give the.
Thank you so much. Yeah. ADYFE has a lot of projects ongoing now due to the fact that we have like 4 different offices: Vienna, Paris, Germany, and Brussels. So in Paris, next month we have our Meta on the 10th of November. In collaboration with Meta, we have a policy discussion about VR, anything linking to virtual realities and diaspora. How Diaspora can support the mental health sectors, which is part of like a large program we started working 8 months ago together with Meta to determine the field of activities that Diaspora can be impactful, how we can engage Diaspora in different sectors like capacity building, mental health, and humanitarian field. So the first step was to develop like a kind of VR reality solution for mental health. And the second part will start, in 4 countries organizing policy discussions about how Diaspora are feeling about mental health, how our doctor can be involved in the metaverse sectors, so that Diaspora also can catch up with the rendezvous of the VR XR solution in the future. So after that, we have our annual yearly program in Africa, DIDA, the Diaspora Innovation Days, which is very important for us. It will be this year in Lusaka, as a side event of AfriLabs gathering. Every year we have similar programs. It's like a mission that we brought 20 to 25 diaspora entrepreneurs to meet local business people. Either you are entrepreneurs or you have a technology that you want to share with other companies in Africa, and make sure that they will start in discussing and also develop partnership and others. We have a video that probably they will share at the end of my presentation now. And at the beginning of next year also, we have in Italy, our Africa Austria Business Days with the Chamber of Commerce, which I will invite you also to come and see the contribution of Diaspora in terms of business linkages, B2B and B2G meetings. And the last, not the least, to go to Richard's line, we also are involved like the last 2 years in Senegal, especially in Casamance, where we develop a certain product with the rural sectors in collaboration with UNIDO and funded by BMZ. And the project was about to build the capacity of 200 ONG, NGOs, and others. And now we have product that we partner with Africa, which is an online platform, selling platform, e-commerce. Now our products are going to Spain. So we are going to Senegal at the end of the year to make the official launch of the project, which is also a very innovative project I can share with you, Richard, maybe to see maybe the link between what you are doing. So those are the main activities we have till January from now, the next 4 months. So I don't know if you have time to show what we are trying in terms of know-how and technology transfer toward Africa, to show like the content of what we did in Nigeria, Abuja last year, like in 1 minute.
Welcome to the Diaspora Innovation Days in Africa during the AfriLab's 10th anniversary in Abuja, Nigeria. My name is Melanie Keita. I'm the CEO of Melanin Capital, a fintech that is trying to support the diaspora and Africans to invest in sustainable development in their home country. And this is really a pleasure for me to be here in Abuja and be part of this DIDA program that has enabled me as an African from the diaspora to come directly and meet hubs, investors, and potential partners for me to be able to develop my project on the continent. So this is thanks to programs like DIDA that are powered by OYA, ADYFE, and many other partners that have made it possible for me to come and be able to develop my business directly in Africa.
Okay, so thank you all very much for your feedback. It's really good to see that you're all doing so many wonderful things, and it's really good for our audience to see what you're doing. So just to talk about DigiLogic for a little bit, we are an H2020 project funded by the European Union, and we have our website as well, the DigiLogic Africa. So you can follow us on social media to know more about what we're doing and how we are promoting collaboration among digital innovation hubs in Europe and Africa. And just as a point, the 2 activities we've got coming up, we've just completed our challenges. So we have some wonderful countries from all over Africa coming to meet with us in Finland in December to have a boot camp, so we can support them for the next 8 to 9 months with regards to their product development, etc. That was something that we ran from our challenges point of view, which was about how do we help support idea stage businesses and scale up businesses with sort of last mile logistics solutions to our African problems. And they've come from everywhere. We've got one from Italy, we've got Kenya, Zambia, Ghana, and Nigeria in our portfolio of clients. So we're really looking forward to that. And we'll put a lot of that information up on our social media, so you can follow us with that. We are planning our co-creation lab. You've got till the 10th of October to register onto that. And it's an exciting upskilling activity where peer teams from Europe and Africa will prototype together digital solutions by means of a 2-week hands-on program. The participants will learn how to best approach service design in smart logistics that will help with experts with co-creation methodologies. We also have our capacity building program. We've opened the registrations for that, and that's open to our graduates who are unemployed and aged 18 to 35. And we've got a 40% intake for women on that particular course, because we really want to engage our women and girls in that particular program. It's a 4-week program that will teach you entrepreneurship skills and digital skills and give you an opportunity to go for a 4-week internship opportunity with one of our guest speakers. So that's what we have on the DigiLogic stage, and just want to say a big thank you to all of you for participating today. I've got so many wonderful elements that you've shared with us today, and I'm really looking forward to offline, engaging with all of you. And for our listeners, please go onto the websites that we'll provide for you to see more of the wonderful work that our participants are doing. So without further ado, if you have any final messages for our listeners, and just a big thank you from us at DigiLogic for your time today. So if we start with Richard to give your goodbye messages, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So, wow, okay. My last thing is to say, probably another kind of challenge is the fact that the population of Africa is still growing. We're still possibly by the year 2100, more than 50% of the world is going to be of Black origin. That means we are going to have a lot of people graduating from schools and still unemployed and not having what it takes to take care of themselves and their homes. So all these innovation things we're doing is very relevant. It's also very relevant for us to continue to collaborate and do things as multi-stakeholder people together in the same place, from governments to the least of all of our members. This is the only way that we know we can take care of our people very well and make sure that they have a better chance. The other part of it is that the rest of the world is not procreating as much. That means they have to depend on African resources in terms of human capital to meet their needs. That means we need to provide them with the right skill sets, the right mindset, and everything that is needed to make sure that they can fill in where it's needed. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I enjoyed sharing the stage with Ada and Youssouf and Toyn and everyone at DigiLogic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard, and we enjoyed having you as well. So, Youssouf, can we please have your closing remarks, please? Thank you.
I will say also, like Richard, thank you so much for inviting us. And I believe that Africa is going to move forward in terms of digitalization very soon. Why I'm saying that, it's because we've learned a lot, you know. The first generation, like 15 years ago, they were trying to copy what was going on in the US. It failed. The second generation, they decided to go to Asia, trying to copy also, it failed. And now we've seen that Americans are coming to take our big companies because we are on the right track now. Africa understood the direction they need to take in order to foster the digitalization and create products. So this is the right time for DigiLogic to boost the contribution of the diaspora toward those programs and projects so that we'll really sustain what we are trying to create in Africa. So thank you so much for these opportunities to meet and discuss about it. And now time for more actions. And thank you to Ada and to Richard for sharing the knowledge and the great project they are doing in their country. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Youssouf. And I really look forward to meeting with you in Lusaka for the AfriLabs conference. So thank you very much for your time today. And without further ado, Ada, please, can you give us your final closing statements, please? Thank you. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Youssouf, Richard, and Toyn for this amazing conversation. I was really looking forward to it, and it went above my expectancies. So thank you very much. I feel really enriched after this. Adding up to what Richard and Youssouf said, I would like to point out the role that the younger generation of Africans in the diaspora can play in this scenario. Because being born and raised in Europe, so having the first point of view that's a foreign point of view with respect to our local communities, and also having the strong link with our home countries is something that can be translated in creating a multi-stakeholder ecosystem where we can all be part of. And a lot of young Africans in Italy, and also other ones that I have met in these years in Europe, they are willing to engage with startups and with companies in their home countries. And they're even ready to relocate back home to feel part of the change. And these people are not finding the right, let's say they're not finding how they can actively do that, so they keep postponing it. So trying to find a way to get in touch with the youth, to try to engage them in what is going on, and try to, let's say, empower them, raise awareness on their skills and their abilities and their possible contribution can be something really, really great. And every time I've seen that happen, every time the youth have been involved, from the policy level to the operational one to the technical skills, it has always been an enrichment. I'm not saying that just because I belong to that part of the generation, but because I think it's a real value that should be promoted. So thank you again to everyone also listening to us. I think that sometimes in these conferences, we have the idea that the panelists are far away, but I would really like to say that please get in touch with us, because we are trying to extend our networks and to find possible collaborations. So we are available for whoever wants to contact us and to continue the conversation in other spaces as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ada. I have nothing else to say other than thank you all for your contributions, and for our listeners to really just connect with all of our wonderful participants as well as us here at DigiLogic. They've told you what they have to offer. Please connect, and really looking forward to continuing the conversations offline and interacting with you all further.